Hey, what's up, Evergrow Army? I want to talk about something that I think is really interesting. Maybe you've thought about this, maybe you haven't. Either way, it's just an interesting thing to look at and to understand and to go over. So with Evergrow, we've got, 8% that goes to rewards. We've got 4% that goes to liquidity. We have 1% that goes to the buyback and burn, and then we have 1% that goes to marketing. And that's where we get our 14% from for the buys and sells. And we're just gonna look at something interesting today, which is the buyback and burn mechanism. So we have a buy and burn mechanism, and we have other methods that are gonna contribute to buying and burning in the future that could heavily increase this, but we'll just look at this for now. Let's just say we had $1 million. So for every $1 million that's getting spent from the buyback and burn mechanism is for every $1 million we spend, we're still paying the fee because that wallet buys Evergrow. So we're going to buy $1 million worth of Evergrow. We're going to pay that fee of $140,000 since that's 14%, which means that out of that $1 million, we are going to have $860,000 worth of Evergrow that's going to be burned. And with today's price, that would equal about 534 billion tokens. Obviously, as the price goes up, it's less tokens that get burned. So we have the auto buyback that's constantly happening, and then we have the moonshots. So as soon as that amount equals $1 million, this is the numbers we'll be looking at. And as we increase in volume, this is a much more likely number to hit. The interesting thing here I see is the $140,000. That 14% that is also being rebought and redistributed. So when the buyback and burn happens, it's still paying the fee and then it's burning the tokens. It's actually pretty crazy. We're burning the $860,000 worth of Evergrow for every $1 million that the buyback and burn wallet spends. But because it pays the fee, it's also paying $140,000 for that million. And out of that $140,000, we have $80,000 that's being redistributed to all holders. We have $40,000 that's going back to the liquidity pool, and then we have $10,000 going to marketing, and we have $10,000 going to buyback and burn. This is only what's coming from the buyback and burn mechanism. This all started with buyback and burn. We're not talking about the initial volume from all buys and sells that contributes to rewards and liquidity and marketing in the buyback and burn. But what we find is because it's paying the fee, it's contributing to itself. So we'll see that $10,000 is going back into the buyback and burn. Out of that $10,000, we'd be doing the same kind of math. 8,600 would be going directly into the burn wallet. And then that would leave us with $1,400, and then we'd have $800 to rewards, $400 to liquidity, $100 to buyback and burn, and $100 to marketing. And once again, we'd have the same thing because it's constantly recontributing back into the burn wallet, which recontributes back into itself. And it just provides a very interesting concept where the burn wallet, as of right now, it's at 1%, and it's constantly out of all volume, it's receiving 1% into the burn wallet. And then everything that's coming out of the burn wallet, 1% of everything that comes out is going right back into the burn wallet to be used again on another burn. There's like this infinite burn happening, and yes, the numbers become much smaller. So let's just say that we had $1 billion in volume. So we have $1 billion in volume. That means that we're getting $140 million going towards rewards, going towards liquidity, going towards the buyback, and going towards marketing. And out of that $140 million, we know that we're going to have $80 million for rewards going to all holders. We know that we'll have $40 million going into our liquidity pool. We'll have $10 million going to marketing. And then we'll have 10 million going to the buyback and burn. So for every $1 billion in volume, we'll be seeing 80 million to rewards, $40 million to liquidity, 10 million to marketing, and $10 million to the buyback and burn. And we know that with the $10 million in the buyback and burn, we know that $8,600,000 worth is going directly to the burn wallet, which with today's price would be 5 trillion tokens. 5 trillion tokens burned if we were at that price, and they don't use all the buyback and burn at once, so this would be over a period of time. But we also know that out of that 1,400,000 would be going to our rewards, and that out of that 1,400,000 coming out of the buyback and burn, coming from our $1 billion in volume, that we would have our $800,000 going back to all holders, that we'd have our $400,000 going back to the liquidity pool, that we'd have $100,000 going into marketing, and we'd have $100,000 going to the buyback and burn. So just from $1 billion in volume, whether it takes a couple of months to hit that or not, what we're looking at ultimately is not just 80 million to rewards. We're looking at 80 million plus the 800,000. And we're not just looking at 40 million going to our liquidity, we're looking at 40 million plus the 400,000. And we're not just looking at the 10 million for marketing and the 10 million for buyback and burn. We're also looking at the 100,000 that comes out of the buyback and burn mechanism, going back and contributing to that volume. What's 800,000 compared to 80 million? It's a very small percentage, but it's nice to know that the buyback and burn mechanism, it's constantly contributing back into the taxes that contribute back to holders, that contribute back to liquidity, and contribute back into itself over and over again. Now this number would happen again. We were going from 80 million to 800,000. So it's not a huge number. I just thought it was really cool how the buyback and burn mechanism is also contributing to itself over and over and over again. And that, like we were looking at, for the every billion in volume, it's not actually going to be 800 million alone, but because of the buyback and burn, and because it keeps recontributing to itself through that percentage, it's going to be 800,800,080. And from there on, it goes into like 80 cents. And that's not really a huge deal. But the same thing would happen for the other percentages as well, because the buyback and burn is also buying more. So for every $1 billion in volume, we have 400 million, 400,000, and $40. And then for the marketing and for the buyback and burn, it'll be the same number, which will be 100 million, 100,000, and $10. For every $1 billion in volume. And Sam also talked about how all the profit from the utility is going to be used to buyback and burn as well. So that's going to be contributing to this. And obviously all our volume in general is contributing to the buyback and burn in the first place. So it's just another benefit of the buyback and burn, because we know that the buyback and burn, it decreases the supply and it increases the price and the rewards. And that alone is amazing enough that it does that, because we see a spike in the price, the supply gets lowered, and our rewards increase. And as amazing as that is, it is also contributing to itself in the future through paying the fee. Through this $1 billion alone, it contributes to itself in the future. But when you add in the continual volume and you add in the profit from the utility, obviously this mechanic is going to be magnified. So I just want to make a quick video giving you guys an idea of how the buyback and burn mechanism keeps contributing to itself over and over again through paying the fee, although at a drastically lower rate. Thanks for watching, Evergrow Army. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.